What's up, guys? So we're pretty much halfway through the year, and I want to talk about some of my favorite phones so far that I have personally used that I think are just really good buys. And I'm going to be talking about old flagships, budget phones, and try to throw in a bunch of other stuff in there as well. Just phones that I thought were pretty interesting this year. So the first phone that I've been really impressed with this year is actually the Galaxy S22 Plus. This is a fantastic device. It's under $300, and again, these prices are all in the USA used refurbished marketplace. And this has been a phone that I've really enjoyed, simply because I think it has a lot of stuff that a lot of people are looking for. It's not too expensive, and it's got a lot of the features that I think a lot of people like. So it's still got a really nice looking design on here. It's aluminum frame, glass back, it's IP68 dust and water resistant, very comfortable to hold, and I think the design still looks really good here. And 2024, you got the matte finish on here as well. And then also, I think the display size is pretty good as well too. It's a 6.6-inch display on here, dynamic AMOLED, 120 hertz, HDR10 plus, 1750 nits, so it does pretty good in direct sunlight. 1080p 393 for the PPI, and overall very slim bezels. Just a very nice looking phone to look at. Very colorful and vibrant panel. I think the thing that put this phone actually over the top this year was the One UI 6.1 update. Samsung actually brought the AI features down to the Galaxy S22 series, and I thought that was just really impressive to have basically the features of the Galaxy S24 Ultra on the older flagship. So it has everything except for the hold down the slow-mo for the video, but all the AI features are here. It's really impressive, so I just really like that on here. Now this phone does have the Snapdragon 8 Gen 1, and this processor has held up pretty well. I haven't really had too much issues with this processor at all. I haven't had any type of overheating problems. It's really fast as well too. Gaming on here is phenomenal. Basically, doing anything, even if you're doing intensive stuff, it's still just a really fast phone. The base model is 128 gigs and 8 gigs of RAM as well. So performance wise has been really good, and this phone will get plenty more updates as well too. So that's something that I really like about this phone too. The speakers are pretty solid on here. They get pretty loud, pretty good amount of bass quality, and then also you got your ultrasonic fingerprint scanner, works really well. What I think is the best thing about this phone is the actual camera quality is still really good, especially for this price point. It's a 50 megapixel standard, 10 megapixel telephoto with 3 times optical, and a 12 megapixel ultra wide. You can shoot an 8K 24 and a 10 megapixel selfie cam that shoots in 4K 60. So this is still a phenomenal phone when it comes to picture taking, again, especially at this price point. I just really like the way the photos come out. Great detail, great dynamic range on here. The ultra wide, the telephoto are all great lenses on here, and it does pretty good with video as well too, and it does a decent job in low light as well. But this phone also excels in battery life as well too. It does have a really good battery life at 4500 milliamps. It's 45-watt wired charging as well too, which is pretty nice. And then you have your wireless and reverse wireless charging. So I feel like this is just an excellent buy to consider this year, especially for this 300 under $300 price point. All right, so the next phone that really caught my attention this year was actually the Xiaomi 14. I was really impressed with this phone. I really liked the build quality and the design of this phone. Now it's an $800 flagship, so of course it's very expensive, but again, I really like this phone. Of course, you got the premium design. It's IP68 dust and water resistant. And what I like about these Xiaomi phones is that you get the charger in the box, and this phone, it came with the 90-watt charger in the box, and I just absolutely love that. From Xiaomi, they're like one of the last companies, with flagship devices at least, to be putting chargers in the box. That's something that I really like. The screen on here was kind of a smaller flagship at 6.3 inches. It's LTPO OLED display, 120 hertz HDR10 plus. What I thought was really interesting is that it had a 3000 nits peak brightness. So in direct sunlight, this phone was really easy to see. So I thought that was pretty impressive. You also do have a 1200 by 670 resolution at 460, so you had a really sharp, really nice looking display on here. Of course, you got Xiaomi Skin on here, which I thought was fine. I'm not a huge fan of it, but definitely fine. The Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 on here was on board, and then the model I have is 512 gig and 12 gigs of RAM. What I thought was really interesting about this phone is that the cameras were really good. It's got a 50 megapixel standard and a 50 megapixel telephoto, a 50 megapixel ultra wide, and it had 8K 24 and a 32 megapixel selfie that shot in 4K 60. I compared this to the S24, the standard one, and a lot of people were really impressed with the image quality that the Xiaomi phone was putting out. So I thought that was pretty interesting. Just really good cameras on here. You also do have really good stereo speakers on here, and I think Xiaomi phones, they don't get enough credit for having the IR blaster. I think that's just a really cool feature to have. And then also what I love about Xiaomi phones as well is that you get the charger in the box, which I think, Google doesn't do it, Apple doesn't do it, Samsung doesn't do it. You get the 90-watt charger in the box, which is pretty nice. And then you also have excellent battery life on this phone at 4,610 milliamps. So I was just really impressed with this phone. Another phone that has been really impressive to me this year is the Pixel 7 Pro. If you are somebody who's on a budget and you just strictly care about photos, I just take stills and I want them to look as good as possible, the Pixel 7 Pro is the phone that you really want to buy. It's going to take excellent photos still. So this phone you could find for around that $300 price point. And yeah, I was testing this phone out with the Android 15 update as well too. And this phone is just an excellent phone, guys. I really love the photos on here. The overall phone itself is still great. The design still looks good. Aluminum frame, glass back. It's IP68. It still has that classic, pixel design to it. And then also you have a great display at 6.7 inches. It's LTPO AMOLED, 120 Hz HDR10 Plus. You also get 1500 nits peak brightness, which is decent, and a 1440p resolution at 512 for the PPI. Overall, I really like the display on here, and the overall design I think still looks really nice. Now again, these Pixel phones, one of the the bonus with these phones is that you get stock Android and you get to test out the features. Like right now, Pixel phones are in the Android 15 beta, so they're first to get it. So that's always nice. Now the Tensor G2 processor, it does a pretty decent job for the most part. It can get a little bit warm, but I've never had any like serious problems with this phone. As far as gaming, I wouldn't consider it like a gaming phone. Like if you're gonna game on a budget, you would probably be better off with the Snapdragon chipsets, because a lot of the games are just better optimized as well. But this phone does great. Like you can still play PUBG at 60 frames, and it does a fantastic job. You also have 128 gigs of internal storage, 8 gigs of RAM. So performance-wise, you get a pure stock Android experience, very fast, no issues with performance for me. Speakers sound good. The only thing I don't really like about this phone is the fingerprint scanner. It's an optical one, so I mean it works, but it's just not as fast as the ultrasonic ones. But again, it's just a little small thing. But like I said, the cameras are what you really buy this phone for. It's a 50 megapixel standard, 48 megapixel telephoto, 5x optical with a 12 megapixel ultra wide. You also have 4K 60 video, and then a 10.8 megapixel selfie cam that shoots in 4K 60. And what you're really getting here is Google's image processing is just really good. You just get really crispy, great colors. I just absolutely love the way the photos look, especially on skin tones, especially people of color. It just does much better job with skin tones as well too. So I just really love the Pixel experience. You might not know, but I film all of my YouTube shorts with the Pixel since I got the Pixel 7, and then I film them now with the Pixel 8 Pro. But I actually like the video as well on the Pixel phones. A lot of people say iPhone, Samsung with the best video. I like the video, so I decided to film all my stuff with the Pixels. But yeah, I absolutely love the cameras on the Pixel. So this phone does have a 5,000 milliamp hour battery with 23 watt wire charging, and you also have 23 watt wireless charging, and then you also have reverse wireless charging as well. So this is a great camera phone for $300. All right, the next phone is actually going to be the Galaxy S23 Ultra. I think this is the best flagship to buy overall this year. I wouldn't buy a current year flagship this year. This phone is legitimately, it's just like the S24 Ultra. There's almost no difference. And not only that, but you get to save quite a bit of money if you buy the S23 Ultra, because it's going in the used refurbished marketplace for like $700 to $650, and it's much better than paying $1,200 for the S24 Ultra, especially If you get a deal on this or a trade in or something like that, you can get the price down a little bit more. But this is easily still the best phone to buy in 2024. Like if I had an older phone or I had anything, a mid-range phone, I just wanted to get into the flagship space and get something newer, I would just get this. I don't think this is literally still the best phone you can get this year. So this phone, again, same identical design pretty much to the S24, aluminum frame, still the same boxy design, IP68. It has the S Pen in it as well too. And like I said, it looks really good. The only difference is the S24 has that, the titanium stuff going on. But this phone, it looks fine, and it's still a really nice looking device. 6.8-inch display, 1440p, 500 for the PPI, dynamic AMOLED, 120 Hz, HDR10 Plus. Still a very bright panel at 1750 nits. Excellent, beautiful panel. What I like about this panel, I still think this looks a little bit more premium because it does have the slight curve to it. So Samsung moved completely flat on the display. I think this still has a nice little premium look to it. This phone still pretty much has all the same features as far as the AI features of the S24 as well too. And you have the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 on here, and you also do have 256 gigs of internal storage and 8 gigs of RAM on the base. And yeah, the performance on here is pretty much, again, identical to the S24. This phone does not really have any major problems with heating. It does a great job with gaming performance. Like I said, very, very close to the S24 in terms of, quality. The speakers are actually really good on here as well too. Samsung definitely improved the speakers on here. Great bass, very loud as well. Under the display, fingerprint sensor, all that stuff works really well. The cameras, again, are not that different from the S24. A 200 megapixel standard, 10 megapixel telephoto, 3 times optical, and a 10 megapixel periscope telephoto, 10 times optical. It shoots in 8K 24 and 30 with a 12 megapixel selfie that shoots in 4K 60. The image quality is, again, pretty much the same. You're going to get great zoom photography, great stills, excellent video. This phone is just going to do a phenomenal job across the board when it comes to camera. So basically any area, it's going to do still an excellent job. And like I said earlier, battery life is excellent on this phone as well too. 5,000 milliamp hour battery, 45 watt charging, wireless and reverse wireless charging on board. This phone is just excellent overall. So that's why I say it makes no sense to buy a S24 Ultra. This is really, to me, the best flagship of 2024. All right, so lastly is the OnePlus 12R. So I thought this phone was really interesting because OnePlus will let you trade in any phone in any condition for $100 off, which brings the price to $400. So I thought that was pretty interesting based on the specs of this device were actually pretty good. I really liked pretty much everything about this device at this price point. And it's a mid-range phone pretty much, and usually I don't recommend mid-range phones, but this was very impressive. So I like the design on here. It's aluminum frame, glass back on here. Now it was IP64 waterproof and dustproof. So, you kind of take an L there, but still overall excellent design. I really like the way it looks. It looks really, really nice, like a flagship phone pretty much. And then you have a really, really nice display. It's LTPO4 AMOLED. It's also 4500 nits peak brightness, so extremely bright at 6.7 inches, and it's 1264 by 2780 450 for the PPI. I just really love the display. It was a beautiful panel, curved screen, and absolutely awesome display on here. Now, I was a big fan of Oxygen OS. It was very clean. I like the icons, I like the layout, I like the settings. A lot of people, you may or may not like it, but I thought it was pretty clean for a skin. So I had no issues with that. And this phone has the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 on here, so it's a pretty powerful phone here. So you can pretty much game and pretty much do intensive tasks on here, multitasking, everything. And I never had any issues with this phone performance wise. It was a beast when it came to performance. Like I said, especially for $400, this was a very impressive phone. So 128 gigs of internal storage, 8 gigs of RAM, and then you also got pretty good speakers on here. I love that this phone also had the infrared port option as well too. And then you also do have a pretty decent fingerprint scanner as well. Now the cameras on here, this is where they kind of cut, the budget here. And I'm not saying it doesn't take bad photos. It doesn't have a telephoto lens on here. and it's basically got, you know, I thought the macro camera was kind of useless. So it's got a 15 megapixel standard, 8 megapixel ultra wide, 2 megapixel macro. It shoots in 4K 60, and then on the front you can really see the budget cut. It's got a 16 megapixel selfie with 1080 30 video, so you don't really get that great video settings for the selfie cam. Now overall, you know, for still images, this phone is a great job. It's going to do a great job. I don't think anyone's going to complain, you know, just looking at the photos here. Battery life was also really good on here. 5,500 milliamp hour battery, very big battery. And again, you get the charger in the box, 100-watt charger. It's only missing, you know, of course, wireless charging stuff. So this phone has a few, you know, cutbacks, but I think the cutbacks are good considering that it excels really well in other areas like the screen, having the charger, the processor, the camera still really good. So this is a phone that I really enjoyed this year. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.